Yeah, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas, baby.
I don't know if you lived that life while you were there. You're like a pretty well-behaved guy.
Yeah, well, back in the day when Mad Max was at his peak, I was something. But I repented of my heathen ways, and so I go to Vegas just to have a good time in a good way.
Well, I wouldn't mind actually asking you about that. I mean, I do want to get into some deployment stuff, but now that you mention it, it's an interesting thing because meeting you at SHOT Show, and I want to make it clear, you're not a guy who comes across as preachy or anything like that. But as we're just casually talking, you are a guy who will quote the Bible. You are a Christian. You're into all that. That's a big part of your life. And like when we had Chief Beck on the show, they were talking about how the military, and they're talking about the SEALs, but always has that Bible thumper and always has that guy who's out of control. And it's like a mix of all these different personalities. So for you, did that come about after your time as an Army Ranger, or were you a big Bible believing Christian as you were deployed?
Well, it came after I retired out of the service. That I had I met a man named Jesus on the way to Damascus back in October 26, 1997, which profoundly changed my life forever. And as I grow in my Christianity, I became a minister, and I was a children's church minister for 3 years, in charge of a children's church. Probably one of the hardest jobs, short of being a ranger instructor, was that of a children's church minister. And the reason I tell people that is that I had to be humbled. When I told my pastor, I felt I was called to preach. And he said, I got just a job for you. I said, what's that, sir? He said, I'm going to put you in charge of the children's church. I said, oh, no, not me. I mean, I'm a combat soldier, ranger instructor, and, all this, multiple deployments. And that's not my call. He said, I think it's going to be a good call for you. I said, well, can I think about it? He said, yeah. So I went home and thought about it. I prayed and I fasted because I wanted to hear, was this my calling? And so, the Spirit of the Lord took me to David, King David, how the prophets told to find the next king. And so he went to David's father and he went down the line and, this Lord, this one, no. Well, then he asked David's father, well, you have any other? He said, well, I got this one out there in the backwoods. He's ruddy. He's out there with the sheep, and said, bring him here. And so he said, that's going to be the next king. And so I said, wow. And so here he was, then the Lord said, how can you be in charge of greater things if you can't take care of the little things? And so that convicted me. And so I had to be humbled and to take these children and mold them, and train them up. The Bible said, train up a child they should go to depart from their ways. And so after 3 years, I said, I'm finished with it. I didn't see no reward in it. But I didn't see the reward till years later. 15 years later, I'm walking down the street, and all of a sudden, I remember I walked into this auto parts store, and this kid was mean mugging me. He kept looking at me, and I'm saying, excuse me, you know me from somewhere? He said, are you Minister Mullen? I said, yeah. He said, I remember you. I said, yeah, you're my children's church pastor. He said, you know that stuff you taught us? I teach it to my kids. I said, wow. You remember that stuff? He said, yes. Yeah. So this happened multiple times. And so that was my reward right there. And so, when I meet my fellow Ranger brothers, I don't, hit them over the head with the Bible. I let my actions speak. I don't want them to change because of me. But so I share the gospel when there's an opportunity. I share the gospel. So they ask me, I tell them my testimony. And all I got to say, this is for real. This is for real. And I remember one of the most exciting things when the Lord came in my life, I was excited. I said, man, everybody need to hear this. Everybody. And you'd be so excited as a young saint. You try and share this gospel and people look at you like, what? And you get frustrated. And you said, well, why don't you listen? I said, well, remember, you was like that. Did you? I said, yeah, you got a point. You got a point. And so the Bible said wisdom winneth souls. So that's how I try and equate it.